Hey, Gloucester Township. I'm Joe Allen. This is Keith Gibbons, and this is the GT Observer podcast.
It is.
Today we're doing the
November.
November
I was gonna
13th.
say October, but it's November already.
I was just thinking about that too.
November
13th. 13th.
The middle of the month.
It is almost. We're almost at Christmas. Well, almost at Thanksgiving actually, and then
True.
everybody's decorated for Christmas already.
And we have a special guest with us here today. We have
Howdy.
Ms. Coyne.
Two special guests.
Oh, two special guests. Yes. Yeah. What's your friend's name there?
Dave.
Hi, Dave.
He said I.
Dave's dead. Oh man. So yeah, we had something new. We're gonna run each episode. We're gonna do a little bit of disclaimers here. So you want to start, Joe? Here, Joe has a new one.
I just, my opinions are my own, and sometimes frowned upon by others, but they are not the same. They're not the same opinions of everybody else associated with GT Observer, and they are also mostly to make sure that I'm never asked to run again for any political position. So
There you go.
that's
Okay.
my opinions.
I like that, Jeff. That's good.
That's good. And then mine's. You have my.
Oh man! What happened? Oh, that's
Oh,
not
yeah,
Keith's
Jane.
opinions. Oh, we gotta fix that now.
All right. What Denise has a disclaimer
do.
she'd like to read of her own.
Yes, I have my own also. The statements and opinions
Why is it?
Where am I? There I am. The statements and opinions I express are based on publicly available information, comments made at public meetings, and interpretation of events. I agreed to speak tonight with the intent to raise public awareness and foster community dialogue about our local government as part of a community advocacy effort. Every effort has been made to ensure accuracy. However, readers are encouraged to independently verify any claims, and my opinions are my own and should not be interpreted as facts.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we're
since
all legal.
mine didn't go through, all of my opinions are my own opinions and do not represent any board that I may be on or should be interpreted as anything else other than they're my own opinions. And I echo everything Denise has said. That sounded very legal.
Dave,
Yeah,
But we do this podcast. We state opinions of our own based off of facts that we hear and that we look up, and we don't always get every single thing right, but
we try.
Not really right, and we don't always agree either. So
we don't.
Right.
All right. Enough of
Before the meeting-
Let's get into the fun stuff.
before the meeting was the workshop.
We did have actual workshop this time. Yep, it wasn't
Did.
canceled. There were a couple topics. Denise, you were there as well. I was there. Joe, you were not. They don't release or they don't record those on YouTube for us to get. I mean, you could get a recording of them, but
They audio record, they don't video record.
yeah, they just do the audio recordings. Right. But so we'll go through them real quick. There wasn't really too much that was on there. We did have batting cages were brought up. That was probably the biggest topic that they had. I believe it was they originally thought that they were going to spend about $420,000 on a building for indoor batting cages, and the bids came in at, if I recall correctly, $1.4 million with no mechanicals for a 4-lane. So that's no electric,
Oh wow, really?
yeah, no HVAC
Yeah.
or anything else that was
That
in
was
there.
just bare bones.
That's just a
Yep.
building
Yeah, just the building.
And
Was
the
it.
and the
Cages.
cages, but
Right.
not the actual machines.
No plumbing, no electric, just bare bones building.
Yeah, no mechanicals, but they did have a $50,000 grant. If we wanted to spend, for probably $2 million, we could get a $50,000 grant, I believe. I believe that the wording was now is not the time for this bid, is what council president said when they did a straw poll.
Right, now it's not the time for this, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that fired up some people online too, didn't it? Quite a few.
It
Quite a
did,
few
yeah.
super dad coaches got a little upset about it and
Right.
thought that it was
Well, this whole thing morphed because I remember the meeting where Ariel Little League came and they were talking to council about the batting cages. And initially, it was supposed to be batting cages for them at their field.
Right.
And then somehow that got
right.
changed to for the whole township. And then when that was brought up, there was discussion about, well, how is that going to work, because there's so many different teams, and it would be a scheduling nightmare, and they went ahead with it anyway. And the 420,000 morphed into over $1 million.
So was it originally going to be like an outdoor cage?
Well,
Like
a lot of
aerial?
them have outdoor cages now. This was going to be an indoor in case it rains. They had somewhere to go
Right.
or something.
But I think it was going to be just like, indoor batting cages just for aerial. So it wasn't like 3 different lanes. It was just like a covered structure, I think. And then that morphed into, let's build a building, let's build multiple lanes, let's have, lights, plumbing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like any other, not any other, like other things that happen in town where it's like, hey, you could just do this here, and they're like, why do that? We could pay all of our pay-to-play vendors lots of money if we built this grand. And
build a
look how
stadium.
awesome we would be! Like if we had indoor bat, would be the envy of every town around. And you're like, well, okay.
Yeah, we've got some rich towns around us that can afford that kind of things. I mean, I was just thinking, if it was just going to be like an outdoor cage at Ariel, perhaps they could just raise money, or they get a grant for that, and then next year there's a different field. But rather than going in at without electrical, I guess with electrical you're probably looking at maybe 1.5 million.
At least, probably.
It's got to be more than $100,000 for electric for something like that. Easily more than that.
It's probably 50 grand, but it's probably 500 grand if you pay our folks. So
Yeah.
It's just we don't have the money for even outdoor batting cages,
Right.
let alone that.
Well, I can understand
it's-
people being upset if you fought for something, or you've
100%,
been
yeah.
asking for something and working on it for a really long time, and then all of a sudden it's just shot down. But the reality is we don't have the money for it.
yeah,
So I mean, it would be different if we had money available and they're choosing not to spend it, but we don't have the money.
Right.
So.
Yeah, the batting cages, like being, if we were saying we're, like, I'm not against the batting cages, we're saying that we don't have the money to build them, right? Is everybody here in agreement on that? Which I know, Joe, your opinions are your own and piss people off, but
well, my opinion.
We don't have the money to do it.
My opinion was, look, we just got through a situation. We were trying to sell off our sewers, so it's we're going to sell off our sewers to pay off our debts because we were supposedly in trouble, basically. Right. And so that when you think about something like that, a luxury, basically, if we can do outdoor cages, we have outdoor cages already, let's stick with that while we're short on money. But
it's just like your household budget. If you're low on money, you buy only the necessities. But if you're flush with money and you have extra money and you want to buy a luxury item, then that's something, it's a totally different scenario.
Right.
And it's the same thing in municipal government. So we don't have extra cash laying around where we can afford to buy luxury items. So.
Yeah. And then too, I guess you get into, all right, we just spent 1.4 for batting cages. What about, why just that sport? What about the kids that play football? What do they need?
Well, it's always going to be what about me? What about me? And there's a lot of me's in a in a town of 70-some thousand people. So
all the kids that do figure skating are going to want ice rinks. So.
Well, the other part of that too was if they did build the cages, they were talking about having them used by the sports teams. So there was a lot of people saying, well, if you're building it with taxpayer money, then all residents should be able to use the batting cages, not just the sports teams, which, I believe that's a valid argument also.
Yeah, that was actually brought up. You're good on bringing that up. But yeah, it was said that it was going to be only for the approved clubs in town. We had talked about this on another podcast before, where it's like they can actually control who runs those, who is like an approved, team. Anybody go start a team and go play on a field and everything else. Yeah, I understand that I understand the reasoning behind that, but it's just one more thing to control, and it excludes, maybe there's underprivileged, kids that can't even play on a team, but maybe they want to go to the batting cages. They're not allowed to go to them because they're not on an approved team or something. Like you're excluding people out of there. And in addition to it, they're also staffing it with more people, for salaries and, you got utilities. There's long-term ongoing cost to maintaining
Right, and
another
you have to
building that you
maintain
have.
the facility itself as well.
Right,
So
the
there's cost
facility. Yeah.
involved with that.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, so that was what you call a straw poll. Kind of voted down to say, hey, we're not going to move forward with this. That was done at the workshop, but they also brought up there was a house that was for sale. The sale didn't actually go through because it had a easement that dated back to 1958 that had some dry cesspool thing in there where the homeowner thought, or the buyer thought it was part of their property, but it wasn't, and the township said, yeah, you can have the property. It doesn't, that's no good.
Oh,
right, yeah, the homeowner actually lost a sale over it because of the easements.
Yeah. But that was pretty much it for the workshop meeting, and then we get into the regular meeting where we have all the clips and all the receipts for things that were that were said. But it's started off here. There was a change in the overlay for the villages of Gloucester, which is a now I'm going to mess it up because you're here. What is it? It's a
redevelopment.
plan?
It's an area in need of rehabilitation that has a redevelopment plan.
And then there's a zoning overlay that goes
Well, there is
with
now.
that, right?
Yes.
Right.
Now there is.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had that happen. There was a fee schedule ordinance that went on. There's a public hearing for a zoning change for a property. We went over this before, where we showed you guys over by Valari's. It's kind of the property next to that along, what's that, Sicklerville Road, Joe?
Yeah.
yeah.
So they were trying to take that, and it was, what's the name of that zoning? It's environmental residential.
Environmentally sensitive.
I thought it was environmental residential, but they were trying to change it to highway commercial.
I don't know if the second part was residential. I know it was environmentally
Something to do with
environmentally restricted. I believe it was.
We don't know the exact term, but they were trying to make it highway commercial, and
Right.
highway commercial property was just changed over to be residential not that long ago over at Little Pond. So here's clip one. Let's just play clip one here.
There's no time limit on this.
There are essentially two areas that are zoned environmental residential. One is the Murray Hayes, the Little Mill tract, and the other one is this particular property here. I'm a little confused as to why the master plan says to change the zoning. At the same time, the master plan has the following language. This is from the master plan reexamination report. On page 8, it states, preserve environmentally sensitive land and scenic landscapes, especially along stream corridors. And that's exactly what this is. I mean, why do you think it's already zoned environmental residential? It was decided years ago that this is worth preserving. And without visiting the site, I anticipate everyone's just going to say yes, and it's going to be destroyed. It just doesn't make sense, especially when the township's own master plan reexamination specifically says preserve environmentally sensitive land, especially along stream corridors. And that is exactly what this is.
So yeah, Brian, he made his argument for this during the public hearing, followed up by Denise Coyne, who's here with us. But let's play her clip.
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing. I agree with Brian. We have a master plan for a reason, and this property is zoned that specific way for a reason. And can somebody tell me how many acres this property is?
I don't have that on top of my head. Ms. Corbin, you have,
So lot 1 is approximately 3 acres and lot 3 is approximately 1 acre.
So 4 acres. Because the other thing I wanted to bring up was in the past, recent past, I recall council rezoning a piece of highway commercial property to residential. And one of the reasons that was given the last time this was brought up at a council meeting was that you guys wanted to rezone it for economic reasons for the township because it would be highway commercial and it would be ratables. But yet you rezone highway commercial property for residential. So it really doesn't make any sense to rezone 14 acres of highway commercial and make it residential, and then rezone 4 acres that's not highway commercial to make it highway commercial. I mean, it's not even logical.
That couldn't have happened out better.
I was like, I don't remember what that clip went in there.
So yeah, that was the arguments that were made during the public hearing for them to vote on it, and I think they're both very sound arguments. It make no sense, like none whatsoever. Right, Denise?
Right.
The Little Pond was the other property you're talking about, right?
Right, yeah, Little Pond was 14 acres of highway commercial, and they rezoned it to build townhomes on it. And not only that, but they were supposed to build a 20,000 square foot commercial space on Shoes Landing Road, and the builder was supposed to build the building when half of the townhomes were built and had people living in them, and then came back to council and said, we don't want to build the commercial space until all the townhomes are built, and council allowed them to do that. So the argument that we need ratables kind of doesn't fly.
Yeah. So it's I don't know, that wasn't where the. Oh yeah, no. So it did. It went up for a vote there, right? And
Yeah.
we'll just let's play the clip. What do you guys think at home happened? Make a comment down in the comments down there. Actually, you know what? While we're thinking of that, make sure you guys subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook at /GT Observer, and on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button too. That helps serve it to other people in Gloucester Township on their YouTube feeds as well. So it gives us a hand in spreading the word here. But all right, so let's play this clip.
It's a vote, so we know how votes usually go.
Yes, this is a vote on to change this zoning here.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Hello.
What do we do? What do we do now? So what do we do now?
Do I have a second?
Second it.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
No.
Wait, where's the no box on this
Greenslove?
page?
Yes. Mr. Nash?
No.
Mrs. Walters?
No.
Mrs. Winters?
No.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
The clip. I didn't know how long the clip
That's
was.
my little chipmunk coming up there and saying
Oh,
that he appreciates them.
I thought it was the end of the clip.
I think
All
that was
the
the
time I
first
took for that.
time. I think that was the first time that anybody clapped for a council vote.
I know.
Yeah.
And they were so shocked that I guess somebody knew. I feel like they knew that some of them were going to vote no. So before they asked, they were like, "We don't really know what to do at this point. We've never done this before."
Right. How do you vote no? What
It's just a long.
what shape do you make your mouth to?
To say no.
No. Yeah. But yeah, it was. It's pretty funny.
It
though.
was
It was just- well, the clerk, it looked like she's like, wait, hold on. There's just yes boxes on this notes pad that I have here. Where do I write no on here?
I don't think I handed out the right memo.
Well, that vote really has to make Gloucester Township history, because I recall in all the years of going to council meetings, only 2 no votes. And they were single no votes
Yeah.
at 2 separate meetings.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a meeting where there's been more than 1 no vote.
I think the last one I remember was the Stubbs 2020 budget.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I remember.
Yeah,
as
and she
well.
voted no. Yeah.
I think there was somebody else
Hutchinson,
since then.
Hutchison voted no once, only because he knew it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference to the vote overall. And he was just trying to make a point.
And there actually, now that we're talking about it, there was another one where they didn't. Because if you recall when Tracy Trotto was going to be up for re-election, but was already had moved out of town, but didn't tell anybody that she moved out of town.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh.
because remember the budget that year, whoever was up for re-election voted no on it.
Oh, that's true.
She voted yes, knowing that she's going to be out of there
Right.
by the time to. But they could also say, we voted no against the tax increase.
Yeah.
But and then came out that she was. So there was another meeting then so that isn't exactly.
Wasn't that
but-
Stubbs though? She voted no on the budget, I think.
On that
2020
one,
she
I
did.
don't know that she was even present because that was about the times when she. No, that wasn't 2020. That
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so maybe there was 3.
Yeah, there was a couple of times, but it's not. It doesn't happen often. I guess is the point. When we can sit here and name the times
three
over
times,
the last 4
3
years or something.
No, 16 years.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I was only counting from like 2018
No,
on, but yeah.
I don't know how many years really, but it's been a long time.
I mean, I have to say, when I heard no come out of Troxel's mouth the first time, I was somewhat shocked. At first, I was a little taken back by like, did they just miss the cue? Is everybody not paying attention to what's going on? That there wasn't a second. And then when she said no, I was like, whoa, where did that come from? And then I think Nash was the next one that's voted no.
You go,
Also,
what's happening right now?
yeah. And I was like, oh, all right, people got some. But I'm like, did we have anything to do with that, of showing them that, hey, we can get people aware of what's going on here? Now people are watching, or are we giving ourselves too much credit by doing that?
I don't want to.
I think
I don't want to take credit. I want to say that they just were like, look, it seems obvious what we're doing here, right? And
I understand, but there's
you know,
other times that you feel like they have to know that they have a conscience of what they're doing, and they can't think that it's always a yes vote, right?
What? Well,
That you would think that there would be more times that people would vote no.
I agree with Keith. It's highly unusual, and I think there's, something behind it. And I have my own opinions, but I'd rather not voice them at the current time.
well, either way, it moved me. I was,
Yeah.
when I was watching the meeting today, doing the clips for everything, I did the clip and I'm like, that's pretty good. I liked it. I mean, I especially since it is, it's for me. I've changed a lot the way that I felt about Brian's the stuff that Brian pushes for, because I was like, it's just hippie just wants to save trees and we need to build everywhere because we need that tax money. And then he's changed my opinion on that. And,
Yeah,
and
I'm with Brian.
that Brian has really changed my mind on that kind of thing. And so I was really happy to see that he got something that he wanted there, and I was moved by it. So
All right.
Congratulations to those folks.
Yep. So, all right. Well, after that awesome vote there, we moved into our ego section where people are able to send in their questions to our local government and they answer them. Let's start with clip 4 here.
First is from Jimmy Jones of 100 Lincoln Drive. Police department expenses should be accounted for within the annual operating budget, not through long-term borrowing. If police-related costs are contributing heavily to our debt, does this indicate a failure in budget management? What specific reasons can the council provide for not addressing these expenses within the yearly budget despite prior resident warnings? Our police department expenses are accounted for within the annual budget, as well as long-term borrowing. Each year, we have capital projects that entails purchasing vehicles and equipment for our police department. Police equipment has a documented useful life of exceeding 5 years, and we're able to do long-term borrowing for those purchases. All items that are purchased by the township go through a bond ordinance. They're thoroughly reviewed by our bond counsel, and they meet the requirements of the state and local bond law.
I'm going to ask Denise, what do you think of that answer? That response, I should say.
I think it was written for him.
Well, yeah, that's very true, yeah. What do you think, Joe? It was written for him, right?
Well, yeah, but I don't expect him to have all the answers.
Yeah.
I expect him to go back and ask them, because he's not part of the administration. So it's definitely written for him. But
it is a topic that's been kind of brought up a couple of times now recently, where it seems that they tend to like blame the police of spending and borrowing for different things, and it was interesting.
I remember in 2019 at the budget hearing, 2019, Ray Polidoro went up and the usual, begged them not to raise our taxes, and I remember him saying in 2019, if you raise taxes, I hope you don't blame it on the police. Do you remember that?
yeah, I do.
Yeah, 2019. So, but the reality is, every township has a police force.
Right.
So, I mean, every township has to budget to cover the expenses for their police force. So, to say that, every time taxes go up, it's because we have to, provide for safety of our residents is kind of, redundant. At some point you think
Every town has to do that.
Yeah. And at some point you think you would correct whatever is causing you to under budget the needs that you have to provide the safety that's required.
Right.
So
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to, we had this one. This was an interesting one here.
Our next question, eGov, is from Stacy Smariglio from 1680 Old Black Horse Pike. I submitted before and the police did respond. However, today my house was hit by a truck. An accident occurred, 3 vehicles involved, and the one vehicle hit the front of my house. I'm so thankful no one was seriously hurt, but I'm asking again for the speed limit to be reduced on Old Black Horse Pike at the very least. There is no need for the speed limit to be 40 when it's all residential homes. Please reduce the speed with the hopes to keeping more people safe. The chief presented, he's not here today, Deputy Chief Nas is here, but the chief provided me a response to that eGov, and we'll also forward that to Ms. Smariglio, that the roadway is in compliance with the New Jersey Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's determined that the speed limit set forth was reasonable. This was corroborated using traffic speed volume counts that the Gloucester Township Police Department conducted on multiple occasions through 2019 and 2024.
Yes, that was a house a house getting hit by a car because of an accident. So, yeah, I just found that was kind of bizarre. Imagine your house getting hit.
When I read the notes, I read horse.
Oh,
And so leading up to it, I'm like, I
can't wait to
tragic story about this horse getting hit. And then I heard his house, and I went, "Oh,
makes more
thank
sense.
God it was a house, not a horse."
Oh yeah.
I did think though, thinking of that road, and I was thinking of different roads that are kind of similar to that are 40-mile-an-hour roads, like Turnersville Road, stuff like that. There are generally 40-mile-an-hour roads in between with neighborhoods on both sides, and I thought, I don't know, 40 kind of seems to fit there, but
Yeah, I think what they were saying too is like speed isn't the reason for the accidents a lot of times on there. Like the amount of accidents that they had weren't due to speed.
Weren't speed related.
But all right, so we had the next one. Actually, you sent this one in here.
it's a
The
rare
next
email
is
for me.
from Joe Allen of Bellissimo Court. Given that tax increases have been implemented regularly, why were the residents not informed earlier about the substantial and growing debt burden? This has been something Pete Heimball, Sam Sweet, and many others have been bringing up to your attention for years now. What steps will council take to improve transparency, ensure that residents are fully aware of the township's financial situation in the future? Our audits and our budgets are put on the township's website for everyone to view. The debt has declined in the percentage in the past 10 years for the township. Per the statute of the state of New Jersey, the township is allowed to go up to 3.5% of the 3-year average of the net valuation taxable. The township is well below that percentage. As of 12/31 last year, the township's percentage of debt was at 1.19%, and that has been declining. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis? You are correct.
So yeah, I that was the reason behind that is kind of that it's sometimes it feels like we're spending too much, and then it feels like it's always kind of seemed like it's not that much. This is normal, and then recently this year it felt like we've spent way too much. We've borrowed way too much.
Just because you're allowed to be that much in debt, it's like having a credit card that's whatever it is, a $50,000 limit, and you're maxed out. Like,
Well,
great.
Well, what they're not mentioning is over the years, they have found all kinds of ways to raise additional money outside of what was budgeted.
Right.
They've sold the Nike base land. One year they got lucky and they got $7 million for COVID. I mean, it seems like every other year they're when they don't raise taxes, they're finding additional money from somewhere, and I really don't think there's much less left to sell at this point. And I mean, I think they're having a hard time coming up with the additional money, hence trying to sell the sewer.
Right,
So-
and that's kind of part of the point is we're running out of things to sell, but we're
Right.
we're getting more and more in debt. And when they talk about percentages, like one of the things I know, like in my world for concerts and stuff, there's a metric called a per cap. It's like the dollar spent per person, at a show. And
Okay.
people like live and die by like per cap numbers, and you're like, the bank does not accept per caps, it accepts dollars, right? And then when he's talking about like, oh, it's as a percentage we're well without within our limits, and again, that's what you're allowed to be kind of go up to.
Yeah,
You don't have to get to that. That's not a goal. You don't want to be there. Like, so when we're saying like, oh, it's at 1% 1% sounds better. Like that's it. You know what I mean? That sounds bad. If we went and told every person in town like they're at 1% of our taxable rate, whatever term, no one would care. But when you put it into dollars, which everybody has to deal with their own budgets and what banks accept as payments and want from you for it does matter. $65 million is a lot. Sounds is the real number, not 1%.
And if it wasn't a big deal, why'd they try to sell our sewer?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it was just it's a lot of mixed messages, like,
Right.
because it always seemed like when Pete and Sam were up there, it was like it's not a big deal, and then all of a sudden this year it was like
Now it's a big deal. We got to
it's a
sell
big
it.
deal. We're trying to pay off all this debt that's kind of hold us back. Listen, guys, this is $8 million a year that we have to spend towards this debt service, and then it's like, oh, okay, so you agree that this is a problem, and now, so they ask the question again, and it's like, well, wait, if this is a big problem, we should maybe nobody else seems to know here in town.
Yeah.
Until now, it's a big problem. But now it's after this answer, it's not a big problem again.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think the second part of that, though, was the transparency issue where, they want to sell the sewer because we're $65 million in debt. And how many residents knew that our debt was even an issue? Nobody.
Yeah, it makes me
So
think of his
part
interviews.
of that question was, how are you going to essentially keep the residents informed? And they're saying, well, the audit is on the website and the budget's on the. First of all, nobody's going to go look that up.
I knew it.
Unless you're Pete or
yeah.
Sam. That's the first thing.
And
the
try and
second
find
thing,
it.
yeah, try to find it, and then also try to decipher it. So how about our representatives explain, our finances to us?
Yeah.
That to me would be a
And
better
that's-
option.
I knew I knew sending it in that I'm thinking they're going to come back and say all that information's available if you can figure out how to navigate our website.
Right.
And it'll be there. But
then you have to understand what you're looking at too. And if you ever looked at a municipal budget, you're like, what am I looking at here? Unless you're an accountant.
Yeah, because any other
So-
town that I've ever lived in, I've never thought about the budget before, because I've also never had to question spending before. So I've never, it's not something that I've ever looked at until I moved to Gloucester Township, and then I was like,
Well,
it seems like it's out of control.
Yeah, the reality is people elect representatives that
And they hope
they
that they do it.
entrust to handle it for us.
Right.
So,
All right, so we had Albert Newton, clip 8 here.
Our next question is from Albert Newton of 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road. If council recalls, last year when the Gloucester Township administration believed that the sewer system would be sold off, council voted to approve to sweep away the GTMUA 6 million renewal and replenishment fund. Now that Gloucester Township Sewer Department will continue to be run by Gloucester Township Public Works, is the GT administration considering returning those funds to help ensure that our sewer system continues to run smoothly? The $6 million renewal and replacement fund was dissolved when it went from an authority to a utility. That renewal and replacement fund is now surplus. These funds have been used for our sewer system or to offset any increases in our municipal budget and has been returned to our residents.
It's returned to our residents. Okay.
I know. I checked the mail. There was no checks. In the mail,
I
actually.
didn't
didn't
check
get
my mailbox.
I didn't find any money in
No,
my
it's-
mailbox either.
$6 million that I didn't get, but they're going to ask for it back soon.
Yeah, we got to raise your rates.
Yeah.
But all right. So we also had Rich Coin asking a question here.
Our next question is from Rich Coyne of 1060 Choose Landing Road. What steps are being considered to hold the mayor, business administrator, and other officials accountable for the decisions that have put us in this unsustainable debt? Also, how does the council plan to respond to the fact that residents' concerns about excessive spending and borrowing were previously ignored? 2, what specific financial policies and safeguards will be put in place to prevent more debt, ensure responsible spending, and rebuild public trust without having to resort to selling public assets like the sewer system again? In regards to debt, I'm just echoing what my response to Mr. Allen was, that our debt has declined in the past 10 years. The Township Council Administration will continue to budget responsibly. We'll now go into, as we head towards the new year, the budget process. There is a process that takes place with the administration meets with department heads, and they provide their information of their needs to the administration, and we go through a budget process in the springtime. Earlier today at a workshop, we rejected bids for a project that we are very interested in doing, having batting cages for recreation organizations, and that's not something that we can move forward with. So it's examining everything that's coming across our desk and being more prudent. There are many needs that the township has, but there's also wants as well. So it's finding a balancing act between those two things.
Did you happen to see him like almost sprain his shoulder, patting himself on the back for voting down the batting cages over there? He's so responsible.
We get 2 positives in one episode here.
Yeah.
This is that. Yeah, we turned something down.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you go back and you look at any council meeting over the past, I don't know how many years, when they're talking about spending money, the opposite occurs, where the residents get up and beg them not to approve it, and they always approve it anyway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, pickleball went on for weeks.
Right.
Of asking, look, and that was the pickleball was the same year that we had the $4 million shortage on the healthcare.
Right.
And it was like, all right, look, guys, we came up short here. Let's not do this year. We did it anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we have another question here.
Albert Newton, once again, from 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road. Under the assumption that Gloucester Township would receive a cash windfall from the sewer sale, the Gloucester Township Administration made a list of large spending commitments. Now that the sewer sale was voted down and this cash will not be forthcoming, what will become of these spending commitments? I ask that the council please walk through the list addressing each item individually. For council's convenience, I have attached the list below. Eliminate all township debt estimated at $64 million, reducing approximately $8 million annually in the budget that's currently used for debt service. Our debt remains at that roundabout figure. And our debt service will most likely be in that $8 million annually. 2, use $35 million to decrease and freeze local property taxes over the next 5 years. There's not $35 million to decrease that or freeze property taxes, but we'll try to stabilize, as we do every year, our taxes. 3, guarantee continued employment for all sewer employees with the Township and Public Works. Those individuals remain within the sewer utility, and they're still working with the township. Free sewer lateral cleanups for all Gloucester Township residents 24/7, 365 days a year. Mr. Cars, that continues. Is that correct?
We have not discussed that.
That's not? Okay. So that's something that we can address with administration. Recreation enhancement program, setting aside $10 to $15 million to fund recreational projects for all age groups through an application process. There will not be an application process. Each year we do a capital improvement project, and we will identify certain projects that we can earmark for any type of activities, whether recreational, expanding senior citizens, or arts and cultural activities. In addition to that, police and fire responders funding to be made available for support apparatus and other assistance. In regards to our police, there's a capital budget that we do each year. If there are needs that we have to address, we will address that in our capital budget.
So, there.
What?
The responsible budgeting part.
Yeah.
It's every other year.
Right. It's every. Yeah.
It's every other year.
While I appreciate Mr. Newton's question there, I think I would have asked the items that they had on that website. We know that they don't have the money for it because they didn't get the.
Yeah.
It was supposed that was like a carrot that was out there, and it was asked by several people over time about like, what are you going to do differently if you did get this money? How are you going to be responsible? And their answer, the best answer that we got was, I think one time he's like, we will be responsible with it. Like, okay. Now that we don't have the money, now I think that's kind of the focus. How are we going to be responsible with it? Maybe we should put out a list on the town's website of the things that we need to address or cut back on or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? There has to be some sort of accountability on that. But either way, I didn't send that question in, so I can't expect them to answer that question. Let's see. We have another clip here of Mr. Leader.
Our first is from Mr. Leader, who's in attendance this evening. Thanks for the help. 2 points. It was documented that Mr. Mercado stated at the beginning of the meeting that the meeting was of a limited time for public comment. I believe he's referring to the August 8th meeting. I demand to be heard statements said twice was not recorded. The reason I said I demand to be heard is because the meeting was closed prematurely. I had my arm raised every time the call for speakers was announced. Mr. Mercado abridged my constitutional right to address my government. Check out the First Amendment of our Constitution. I request that either an addendum be issued or the minutes be rewritten to be more truthful, accurate, and complete. Mr. Leader, the minutes are not a word-for-word account. At that meeting, I had indicated we went up and down both sides, and I said, when the last speaker, he was from Wyoke, and his name was Mr. Shuck. I said, you will be the last speaker, and he was the last speaker, and we ended the public portion. So that is the account, Mr. Leader, and the minutes will not be amended. Next is Ms. Hendry.
He gets up because he still has time, right? He gets 5 minutes. Part of that is his ego. He still has time left.
Right. So to explain to people that don't understand where we just transitioned from the mail sending in questions part, that was read during the public portion because our super accommodating and transparent government decided they were going to impose a rule on these e-govs that if you send it in and you're in the audience, you don't get to get it read during there. It takes away from your time to speak at a public meeting. So you're not allowed to utilize two different resources that you have of times that you have. So David's was first during the public portion. So the public portion, so the egos were done. They went to the public portion where people were able to get up there and talk. And so he read his thing. And they actually, if you look on there, they started the clock and they started running it. And so David got up. So like, okay, well, I'm going to take the balance of my time since you took up 1 minute and 12 seconds or whatever the time was. And he basically just sit back down. Next. You lost your time. Now there's a new rule in place.
He had over 3 minutes.
Oh left. Yeah, it was like 3 minutes and 40 seconds or something that he had.
Right, he should have had 5 minutes, and Orlando read his statement, which was a little over a minute, so he had over 3 minutes left.
Yeah, it was just he loves showing you that he's the one in charge, and you're like, dude.
Well, you know, you almost feel punished for asking questions.
Oh yeah.
Like it feels like you're being slapped on the wrist for sending in an e-gov and coming to a meeting.
Right. We've gone over this before.
Yeah, which I've always looked at is what a bonus for them to get the e-gov because then they can research it and they don't have to give you an I don't know. They have the information given to them by whoever else ahead of time that says here's the information on that, and they can read it off.
Right.
So.
And if you recall all the times that Tom Cardis and Dan Hutchinson said to us, well, if you had sent in an email, if you had emailed us in advance, we could answer you. So there's certain questions that I've asked in the past that, aren't just yes or no answers or responses and do require a little bit of research. So you send it in as an e-gov.
Right.
And that way they have it in advance. They have time to look at it. They have time to give you an appropriate answer. Not that they do, but if they wanted to, they could. And, so, and the other point is if you send it in e-gov, it becomes part of the minutes. So it's a part of the public record.
True.
Oh,
And that
okay,
was
yeah.
kind of what
Right.
Dave's whole point of doing that is, because he was trying to get it in the minutes to state that I had my hand raised. You did not call on me. So now that now that was done, now it's in the minutes there. But all right, so we're gonna move on to clip 11. There was also another e-gov that was sent in by someone who ended up attending the meeting. So hers was read as well.
Is Ms. Hendry from 89 Lamppost Lane. The question is, the council president previously claimed that the debt is due to investments in roads, parks, and police. If this is the case, can you present the financial planning and bond issuance details for these projects, including anticipated repayment schedules and identified revenue sources? The bond issuance details and anticipated repayment schedules, they are identified in our annual debt statement and our annual audit report. These reports are available to anyone on the township's website.
So
Yeah, good
there
luck
you
finding
go.
it.
You don't get an answer.
I should-
Perfect example.
There you go. Exactly. So, but I think the point of that whole, her question is pretty valid. It's like, okay, well, you blamed this debt, like it's not. You're like, no, it wasn't wasteful spending. We had to fix roads. There was police. We had to pay for police and all these things that are. And she's like, well, okay, what roads did you do then, or when are we paying this? Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. I don't believe this clip was no, this was Denise. Was yours? Let's see here.
Denise Coyne,
Nope,
she's
she's
leaving.
live.
As far as the sewer cleanouts that the MUA used to do, that now you're not certain you're going to continue to do, I believe I read when you dissolved the MUA that you had to provide the same services that were being provided prior to the dissolution. Is that not true?
So those services, Ms. Coyne, this body was unaware, and also the administration was unaware that they were being performed on a routine basis. People were scheduling these things. It wasn't an emergency at 3 a.m. There are people that were scheduling these things, and that was unbeknownst to the administration and council here. So Mr. Carter's, who oversees the public works, that's the conversation he'll have with the administration regarding going forward with that.
So just to comment on that, there'll be a discussion about it. There is a difference between what was being provided and what was proposed to be provided if the sewer referendum had passed. And so there is consideration of not doing it at all, doing it as it was before the referendum was posted, and doing what was posted on the website that would take place if the referendum passed. So there's really 3 scenarios that need to be discussed, and they have not been discussed yet.
Okay, but my question was, when the MUA was dissolved, I believe I read that it wasn't an option. You had to provide the same services that were being provided prior to the MUA being dissolved. Is that not true?
I know that we did, can I speak?
Yes.
I know that we continued to provide those services, so there was not an interruption in those services. I know that we continued those services up to a point in time during the day. It was not 24/7. It was not 365 days, as was proposed in the bullets that were listed on the township website for the sewer center.
What I'm saying is what the MUA was doing prior to being dissolved, as far as what I understand, has to be continued. So if the MUA was doing free sewer cleanouts prior to the dissolution, according to what I recall reading, you would have to continue to do that as an agreement to being able to dissolve the MUA and make it a sewer utility.
I don't recall that at all.
I read it. It said that you had to offer the same services that were being provided prior to the dissolution. You had to agree to that in order to dissolve the MUA.
You're saying that the Division of Local Government Services, when the DCA agreed to the dissolution, that they stipulated in the resolution for the dissolution that we had to do the cleanouts. Is that what you're saying?
You had to provide the same services that were being provided prior to the dissolution.
I will go through that resolution. I will get you a copy of it too, if you don't already have it, because it has to be spelled out in the resolution that was approved by the local finance board.
Okay, I'll find you where I read it, because I do remember reading it.
Be more than happy to take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nah, I'm going on a cruise, you know?
You're going on a cruise?
Where you going?
Yeah, I'm taking her on a cruise.
Where are you going to go? I mean, where are you visiting on the cruise?
Well, it's going to be on a boat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
But what are you going to do?
Going?
Where's the boat go?
Well, the boat's going to be in the water.
All right.
See, you thought he didn't know.
I thought he knew. I knew you knew.
Yeah, so Denise is asking a very simple question, and he's answering questions she didn't answer and going through. But Denise, you definitely looked that up, right? And there was 100% you were correct, right? They
yes,
have to...
and the reason that I recall that is because the application to the local finance board that they submitted to get the local finance board to allow them to dissolve the MUA was 75 pages. And I remember reading it. And the reason I remember them saying that they had to provide the same services was because it was repeated over and over and over and over again within that document. Yeah. And for Tom Cardis to say that he doesn't recall that and he's unaware of that is kind of scary, because he attended the local finance board meeting. And
shouldn't he also have been part of the one that put together the application?
I would think so. I mean, he's the business administrator. Yeah. So, and it was literally in there over and over and over again.
So, yeah.
So, and it's a state law. There's a state law that governs dissolutions of authorities. And it's New Jersey SA 40A:5A-20. And it says in there that they have to offer the same services after dissolution that they were offering prior to.
Yeah. Part of their his answer back was like, well, we didn't know that they were doing that. Like, that ignorance doesn't... What's the saying? How's the saying go?
Well, here's the thing. There was 20 pages of documents that were... I guess, supporting documents to the local finance board application.
Right.
There was all kinds of like engineering reports and list of staff and, this report and that report. So within 20 documents, you don't know what your sewer employees are doing.
Right.
You don't know what services your MUA is offering. I mean, that's kind of important during the discovery stage when you're submitting the information to the local finance board for approval, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, and especially that you would be able to do the services better than they could. You don't even know what services they're doing.
Right. They said the township would be more efficient. How could you be more efficient
right.
if you don't even know what they're doing?
Yeah.
So, and the fact that they didn't know that they were doing it, but they were indeed doing it, and the council president admitted that they were indeed doing it, they should, according to law, have to continue it, whether they want to or not.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, when you get to the point where people are scheduling this out, like it's being scheduled,
right?
I would imagine we've got people that are constantly busy doing this.
Yeah, this isn't a rogue employee that's like going out and doing it. They're
like
scheduling.
He's got like a cape on, and he just shows up at your house, and he's like, "I'm here."
Like, we didn't know what that guy was doing. We didn't know he was doing that on it was off hours. No,
right.
this is they're scheduling.
We thought that guy was sleeping somewhere. We didn't know he was working hard for everybody.
But
for
I mean,
free.
the fact that they didn't know,
I
don't think even figures into the equation.
No, it doesn't.
No, because I mean, the point I was trying to make was. We probably filled that spot, right? Because, if we're doing scheduling out and there's a guy probably doing it or multiple people, like we've probably hired people to staff those
right, to take
roles.
over that additional work.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that, or they were fine before with everybody just kind of hanging around doing nothing. And
I don't think they were hanging around doing nothing. I think it was they didn't even bother to look into what the MUA did. They looked on a sheet of paper that showed that they had, look, this money's available right here. All we got to do is dissolve that, or we could sell that whole entire sewer system. But in order to get there, we needed to go, do this here. We don't care what anybody was doing. We're figure that out later, or it's not our problem kind of thing. It's just more to support our case that they had no idea, or they had a particular outcome and didn't even have any idea what they were doing. Never thought that they would be in the position of, oh wow, we actually do have to continue doing the services that we said we're going to do. And it was just that the one thing that irritated me about where he was like, well, we have to go over as one of the options of to the point in time that the referendum failed. Like it doesn't, like Denise's point was, it doesn't say in the law, right, that well you have to do it up until you promise something else and then that doesn't happen and then this and that. Now we're going to discuss it. There's no discussion. It's you're continuing to do what you have to do by law, right?
Right.
Denise?
Yes, that's what the law states. And the application to the local finance board, there was a page 7 of the application, and there's three different topics. One's accountability to the electorate, where it talks about dissolving the authority and the sewer utility and the global services and how they're going to provide for greater accountability if the sewer is dissolved. And then it says efficiency, and they're going to basically be more efficient than the MUA was. And then the third consideration was financial considerations, and it says that, essentially they were going to do that better too and save us money. And that it says it's anticipated by merging the authority's responsibility into the township, greater inroads can be made in capping customer payment deficiencies, leading to even greater incoming cash flows in the future. So,
awesome.
Yeah, and it was anticipated there will be no additional financial burden to the township's electorate.
Oh, there you go. Says it right in the application.
Page 7.
The local finance board. How many times we hear that during the thing?
Oh,
I wonder what the
over
local
and over
finance
again.
board's answers are now to all these. All right, well, let's see. Did they? Are they going to honor their word to?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidor from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
Before my time starts, will you grant those people who sent the eGov questions in that you read during the second public portion, will you allow them the balance of their time to respond?
If we have time available, we have 30 minutes during our time period.
Okay. All right. So just to recap on the discussion that we've had for some time, that you guys had dissolved a perfectly working and perfectly effective MUA. When we talk about the money, you've already spoken of that. At a time when you were dissolving the MUA, you were asked time and time again if there was any thought of selling. I think Curdy's word for that would be you were disingenuous with that. And then you had come up to say that it was going to be put up for bid to see what it was worth. And apparently 2 different private companies thought it was worth different, 151 million, 143 million. That being the case, later you put it out for bid, and then you decided to go with the story that you were going to put this out to the people of Gloucester Township, and you were going to put it on a referendum, and you would live by what the people of Gloucester Township decided. Well, Gloucester Township people have decided by a vote of around 21,000, about 4,000. They've spoke loud and they've spoke resoundingly. With that, if you honor your word, and we heard it time and time again, that you will abide by the wishes of the people and they have spoken, will you now state that the sale of our sewer is now set? It's not going to happen. Any answer other than yes, including silence, I'll accept as a no. Will you say that this is put to bed, that you will not be selling sewage system of Gloucester Township for any time in the foreseeable future?
Mr. Polidor, so the voters rejected the referendum. We accept the results of the election last Tuesday. We know that there is a value to our sewer system, and there is always an opportunity to revisit that. That's my response to you.
Okay, so theoretically,
We still have it. We still have the sewer utility that we're running, and we'll continue to run that.
okay. But my question is, now that we have spoken and all the people have spoken, for the foreseeable future, will you take that off the docket? There'll be no sale of our sewer system. Will you honor the wishes of the people of Gloucester Township? For the record, will you say yes? we're pulling the opportunity to sell our sewer system.
I responded to you, sir.
No, I said anything other than yes is a no.
Okay.
What you told me was you have a working sewer system and you may revisit it.
Yeah, we may revisit that.
Okay,
I may
so-
revisit. That's me personally.
Okay.
There are other people here.
So the people of our township are going to go to battle again with you guys, despite the fact that
I
you're
don't
our
know that.
representatives.
We don't know that.
Well, you basically said it, anything other than yes is a no. And you said that you'll go at it again. So 21,000 people's voices have been heard, and you're going to ignore that. That's what I hear. That's what they've heard.
All right. So,
To save your signs?
yeah, right. It's pretty interesting that he won't say that. You know, it's off the table. When originally they wouldn't. They're like, we're letting the people decide this. The people are going to decide this.
Yeah, but now it's like, well, it has a value, and it could come back up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe somehow now he doesn't want to lie or something. I don't know.
Well,
But Denise, you had a point at the very end there. What he said
what do you mean?
when Ray said, you know, the people are going to have to fight you again on this, and he said, we don't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wonder what that statement meant. Like, what does he know that we don't know? But my whole thing is, he's our representative. And if they put this on a referendum saying that they were going to let the people decide, and the people vote, and by an 81% overwhelming majority, the people said, we don't want to sell our sewer. For our representative to sit there and say that they may try to sell it again, essentially because it's an asset and it's worth money, is he saying that he's choosing the asset over representing the people?
100%.
I
That's
mean-
what he's saying. I mean, that's what I hear him saying. He's basically saying, I don't represent you. I don't care what you people out there think. We need to get a job done, whatever that is, with our bosses, say. And our
Right.
bosses are not you people. It's someone else. Because if it were you people, we would take that off the table. We heard you. But they're not. That's not what they're saying.
Then does that equate to it was never about the residents?
Yes,
It was always about the money and politics, essentially.
I'd agree with that.
There's only one way to save your sewer.
What? You know about this?
Yeah. That's the only way to
Dave.
save your sewer.
Dave, you're next. We are done. We're done with this.
DavisNext.com. It's the only way to save your sewer. Because well, we're gonna get through 25 probably okay, and they're gonna bend. And I think even Ray's gonna say this in the next clip. I think even he says this that the accounting is good.
It's a magic wand.
Magical. He's got magical accounting every other year. 25 is one of those years. It's an election year. Magical accounting comes back.
Well, when we say election year, because there's elections, I think every year, right? But they're elections for them, in town, and we did have one council member for a fluke kind of thing that happened. But yeah, it's an election year, meaning there's multiple members of council up, the mayor's up. Like that's what we mean when we say an election year. Yes, there was an election. Either way, all right, let's go play that magical clip here.
I believe Mr. Cardis is quoted as saying, if this thing fails, not here at council, but out and about, that we may be sorry. Taxes are going to rise. What does council think of something like that, that the people that voted this down will be sorry because our taxes are going up? Is there anyone on council that wishes to speak on that?
There is a possibility, so we have a sewer utility, that there may be capital improvements that have to be taken.
Okay, so here's what I see in the future, in the very
And
near
where
future.
would that money come from?
Now, luckily, you have a magician in your grasp.
Okay.
Mr. Cardis happens to be a magician because in odd number of years when there's election and the mayor and council are up next year, he performs a zero, holds the line. Unfortunately, on even numbered years, he's not so good at his job. We get an average of a 10% tax increase. And Mr. Cardis, I've offered you, if you ever need an extra magic wand, I have it in my back pocket. It's still in its wrapper. It's brand new and unused. So next year, the mayor and council are up. And I don't think that you'll be able to raise taxes. You never have. You never will. It's an election year. But I really wish, for the love of God, that you would honor the people's wishes and take it off the table. They told you what they wanted. Now be our representative and do what we've asked. Thank you. Have a great night.
That's the hard part, being our representative and doing what we asked.
Apparently, I mean, it certainly looks that way. So, but you know that the whole thing with the finances and having to raise our taxes, the MUA was fiscally sound. It operated on a $5 million budget, had a $6 million surplus by charging around $45 a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to maintain our sewer in good shape. They were able to do the capital improvements. They were efficient in running their operation. Nobody had any complaints about the job that they did. And the reality is the residents are still paying $46 a quarter. The township is now, collecting those payments. So if the MUA was able to run the sewer system successfully on $46 a quarter, why can't the township? Why are they now saying, oh, we're going to have to raise taxes to do the same job that the MUA did, when we were told when they dissolved the MUA that they could do it better and more efficient on less money?
Exactly. That's where it comes in, like we were saying before. They didn't care if they were going to be more efficient and everything else because they had a different goal in mind. And to your point, Denise, and they were saying, oh, it's, the rates need to go up. But like you just said, the rates already helped accumulate $6 million that you guys pillared. So when we said that I'm going to stop with it.
Well,
I'm about to say stuff I don't want to.
It's they I forgot my point now too.
All right. Well, you know what?
But they also have somebody. I mean, look at the spot that they're in now. They got rid of the person that was in charge of the MUA when they dissolved it, and then in the interim, they put someone in charge of it that has no MUA experience at all.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have somebody in charge of the MUA who has no MUA experience. So who's running the show on that now?
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to fix that? Is that person going to be replaced now?
Also you had the new supervisor of I guess he's the supervisor, Kevin Bucciaroni, right? For Public Works. He's now handling or managing part of the sewer, correct?
I don't know if it's sewer. I know it was something to do with the MUA, but the MUA also encompasses the leaf collection thing. So I don't know if he's part of. I don't know which part of the MUA. Because they do have two different.
Right, but he made a statement during the sewer sale to the Vote Yes campaign when he was endorsing the sewer sale that
that's true.
They would
free up. Yeah,
it would free up
focus on the public works or something. You're like, well, wait, you were already focused on public works. They put you over there because none of it made any sense.
Right, and when they dissolved the MUA, they said that they could do it better for less money. They could be more efficient. And now they're saying, well, if we have to fix something, where's the money going to come from?
We already had it. You took it and spent it.
Wait. That wasn't a consideration when you thought about dissolving the MUA? You didn't think, well, gee, if something blows up, how are we going to fix it?
Right. The thought now is, well, because we didn't sell it, now where are we going to get the money from? But like you said,
right.
That was always on the table as a thing that could possibly happen.
Yes, I'm sure it happens in Cherry Hill. I'm sure it happens in Washington Township. I'm sure it happens in Deptford. Where do they get the money from? They have to budget for it. They have to plan for it.
It's just another excuse, just like they use the police as an excuse. Now this is an excuse.
It'd be an interesting conversation to have with someone like a Dennis Palmer, who's got this experience, to say, are we better off if we go back now?
Well, he said all along that authorities manage sewer systems and water systems much better than municipalities.
They don't have all the distractions.
That is their focus. That's what they focus on. They understand the current laws, all the current government rulings that have to do with water and sewer systems, and that's their main focus. That's what they do, and they do it well.
Yeah.
But when you throw it in the mix of a township, especially a township our size, with 65 going on 70,000 people and 30,000 sewers, it's a big job to throw into the mix, along with everything else that has to be done in a township our size.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that an authority that, only has that focus should be able to do it with more focus than the township could.
I feel like he did say that was to go back to an authority is a little bit of an uphill task.
I'm sure it's easier than trying to get it back once it's sold, though.
Oh, that's 100% true. So, all right. Well, we moved on to here's a clip from Mr. Burns going up.
Good evening, Council. Again, Brian Burns, 5 Slowwood Drive in Ariel. I want to thank those council people who voted no this evening. That was huge. And if I can hear the trees clapping. Thank you. It really was. It was a smart decision. We're saving an ecologically fragile part of the township. There's not many of those left. The last time we spoke, we chatted against the Murray and Hayes properties. Mr. McCarty, you said maybe we can set some milestones or mile points so we can move forward. Has anything changed with regard to where we are with those closings?
Murray Hill? Yeah. So well, first let me say there's always compliments that go out to New Jersey State Green Acres program for what they provide to not only this town but other towns for open space. And also, now they don't only provide dollars, they do a diligent research and to make sure that the ground that they're paying for or allowing to be held meets their standards. The thing that's holding up both Hayes and Murray, we were ready to close on Hayes. They did a second and final inspection and they put a hold on the closing because they found some other issues. And they're all being, I guess, inspected through engineering at this point. Murray property has had a lot of problems. There's a lot of contaminants, a lot of barrels, and buried tanks and things. And we're still spending a lot of dollars doing inspections and clearing up of that. So that's what's holding up both properties. Hayes should go quickly because it's not that extensive, but they won't release it as of maybe 2 weeks ago, if my memory's correct. On their last walkthrough, they put a hold on it again because we were ready to close. But Murray, there's still a lot of things that have to be done on Mary's property.
I'm very disappointed. I'm getting word salad here, and I don't even have dressing on it.
Yeah, so
he didn't ask that question. He didn't ask where
he did finally get an
where's
answer
the milestones
in the end. Yeah, he got an answer in the end that said what there were some problems. There was a whole lot of something in the middle there, but
the question was about because if you recall, I don't know exactly if it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago, council president kind of got annoyed and said, like, yeah, this is going on like years now. Like, can we get some milestones like in place and say, this is the date that this is going to happen? And so that's kind of what Brian, I felt like that's what he was asking. I was like, did you get some of these milestones? Like, where are we at? And it was just like, we're cleaning the place up again. There's a lot of hurdles. And that's basically what the answer was. And it's like, that wasn't, okay. So he basically got the same answer he's gotten for the last 2 years, that they're nowhere with it. But we did get somewhere with something. We got a little. There was a breakthrough in the lectern.
The lectern.
Oh yes.
The lectern case here.
Dave Leader, Huntington Avenue, Glendorf. Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
do you know where the lectern went?
No, I don't know where the lectern.
Mr. Cardis, do you know where the lectern went?
I believe it's stored away.
Was that done on your direction?
Did I?
Did you direct that the lectern be stored away?
Yes, I did.
You realize it's a people's lectern, and I'm one of the people. And I've requested to use it multiple times. And it actually seems like the fact that I brought it up and it's been sitting there for years, that it was kind of vindictive that now the lectern had to be in storage. So Dave, don't ask for the lectern anymore because it's not here. Very convenient. Appreciate that. Congratulations to Helen Albright Troxell on a re-election. You're welcome.
So, yeah, it's gone.
we have enough storage that that's not going to take up space for something else. That it was in the way in this same spot that it's been sitting for years. That he had to. He's like, it's in our way. We got to get rid of this because it's a huge room. Like what is 4,000 square foot room over there?
I wish
that little lectern is in our way. Get that out of here. I order that to put it in that closet where we have a ton of room that we can fill up with that thing.
I wonder how long it's actually. I wonder how long it's actually sat there, and then it wasn't.
You should look back through.
I was thinking I probably should have done that before.
It was there for a really
long
time. Yeah. And that clip, I mean, that's just embarrassing, really. I mean, the
for
poor
who?
man for the responder.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
But the poor man, he just wants a lectern. He wants to
be able to put his down.
He wants to put his papers, his laptop, whatever. But I mean, he's 100% correct. That's taxpayer property. The people paid for that lectern.
Yeah.
And if he requests to use it, I mean, I don't understand why they don't let the man have a lectern.
It makes no sense, and it's like you said, it's vindictive.
It certainly seems that way.
It seems that way. Yeah.
For Mr. Curtis to say that he believes it's stored away, and then admits that he's the one that directed it to be stored away. It's stored away.
Right.
Yeah, he did start off saying, "I believe it's stored away,"
yes.
and then let everybody know that it was. Yeah, it was my decision.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So. Let's see. We go into the roof fund from David. He had a question around this.
Question about reserve funds. When I was running finance for different parts of my businesses, when something like a roof needed to be repaired, we saved a little bit every year. So we forecasted the lifetime of that roof, forecasted what it might cost at the time of its replacement, and every year put some money in a reserve fund to take care of that. Is that a practice that council has, or the chief financial officer?
That would be the practice of the administration, but Mr. Cars?
No, we do not reserve money.
Right, thank you. I think it's something you might want to think about. For example, the sewer, CCMUA, the Gloucester Township MUA, apparently had a whole bunch of money, and it was in reserve, I assume, for catastrophe. So a main went out, if I understand correctly, after the Gloucester Township MUA was dissolved, and that monies were needed. And it came out of the township's budget, or it was another loan, I don't know what. I find reserve accounts to be very prudent. It's a good way to forecast where your expenses are going to be each year. You have much less spikes when you forecast monies for the reserve unit on a monthly or annually basis. It's a much more stable way to do, like this building needs a roof. I don't know when that's scheduled, but the shingles keep flying away. I doubt that I'm the only one who knows that, right? You know that, Mr. Curtis.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah. So if we had a reserve fund
I've borrowed
for the
for
roof,
it 3
we
times.
had forecasted its life, put some money away every month or every year to replace it when its life reached its end, we wouldn't have to go out for loans, we wouldn't be surprised. And we wouldn't have to mess with taxes, other than in a timely annual way.
I don't know that you can put money away.
Yeah, I think from a government accounting standpoint, I don't think you
for
can.
something like that. But you could carry a surplus every year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Other townships have had several $1 million surpluses.
School does it.
You could plan and put the money needed to do planned repairs in the capital budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you plan appropriately and there's, X number of roofs in the township that are 25 years old or older, common sense and logic would dictate they're going to need to be replaced at some point.
So you might have to hire a vendor or something like that to go do a study for you.
Well, that's the other thing.
Pay them like a couple $100,000.
Yeah, that's the other thing that occurred to me is, if you did have the money in the capital budget to make appropriate repairs when they were needed, and didn't have to borrow money, then you wouldn't be paying commissions to pay-to-play vendors.
That's
so.
true. Yep. But
So back in June 24th.
So yeah,
2019.
while that clip was playing, Joe did a little looking up here. So on YouTube,
council meeting recording here from June 24th, 2019. That is the first time that I was able to find the lectern. There are older meetings, but they're somewhere different other than their live area. But I scrolled through their live area, and that lectern has been sitting there since June 24th, 2019.
Look how much in the way it is, though. That's definitely in the way.
It's
Yeah.
I don't even know how you get around the room with that in there. So I mean, it's a good thing Carter's got that, and ordered that to be put away.
It's a safety thing.
Just for at random. It wasn't because of David or anything. It had to be. It was in the way.
So it was sitting there for over 5 years at least.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Clip 18. Yeah, I forget.
Regarding the premature closure of the August 8th meeting, Mr. McConnell, you would never, even if you looked at the videotape, you would never, ever agree that you closed the meeting prematurely. Is that true?
Mr. Leader, I had asked if anyone wanted to speak. And no, Mr. Leader, after I banged the gavel, you raised your hand and you started yelling.
I've asked you to look at that videotape once in the past.
Mr. Leader, there was a room full of people. You were the only one shouting at the end that you wanted to speak. Mr. Shuck from Wyoke was the last speaker. It was said to everybody. We were here for 3 hours, sir. And then you spoke several times that day. And then you still got up and started shouting, sir. We went up and down. But we're going to agree to disagree, sir. Yes, I've taken a look at the video. I know what I said that evening.
You did say it was unlimited time at the beginning of the meeting.
And I said, would anyone else like to speak? And there was only one individual that was left.
Mr. Leader, and I confirm, I agree with President Mercado as well, that those are how the events unfolded.
Every time he called for a speaker, even if he was calling for someone who hadn't spoken before, I made an effort to raise my hand.
And
when he was looking at those two gentlemen in the back whose hands were raised, he had to look right past me because my hand was raised. If you don't believe me, study the videotape. The meeting was closed prematurely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I went back and watched the replay. The last two people that came up, it was, I believe, Mr. Leader, and then the other gentleman that he mentioned. He said he is the last speaker. Then the last speaker came up, and as soon as the last thing that the last speaker said, people started clapping, and then immediately he went to the gavel as the gentleman was turning around and said, "Done." So technically, I guess he did gavel it before.
But I think it's semantic. I mean, we're going over.
I think he gavelled it while hands were in the air.
A public hearing, and Denise, you could be able to chime in. You know a lot of this stuff. It literally is unlimited time, right?
Well, he started the meeting by saying it was unlimited time. It was a public hearing,
but
which
by law,
yes, it should have
time.
unlimited time. And the reality is, the three of us could be in a room and somebody could say, does anybody want to speak? And Joe and I don't raise our hands. You raise your hand, you say something.
Now you want
and
to
it
speak?
spurs a thought in me or Joe. And now we have a question also.
Right.
So, just because we didn't raise our hands when the question was asked doesn't mean that I don't have a question after you spoke.
Right.
And if it's unlimited time, I mean, how can you say you're the last speaker? Because the last speaker may make three other people think of something that they want to ask.
Well, his comment was, we've been here 3 hours. How long did you think we're going to be here? Well, that's what you were elected to do. That's part of the job.
And a public hearing is unlimited time.
He was not incorrect, though, saying that he had gavelled it, and then the complaint started.
Right.
But as someone that was there in the back, directly 1 or 2 rows in front of the people that had their hands raised, they had their hands raised as the gentleman was finishing up his statements.
Yes.
Right. So
there were people
There
sitting
definitely were.
in the audience that had their hands raised. And
Yeah.
Dave Leader was not the only person saying, I wanted to speak, I have something to say. There was other people saying, she had her hand raised and they were ignored.
Right.
Yeah,
But in all fairness, I think we have discussed this before. There is you can't repeat unless it adds to what you've said in the past, right? So there is a certain point at around 3 hours in that people are just saying the same things someone else kind of already said. It doesn't take away their right to do that, but I do get that whole, like we're just saying the same thing. We could say the same thing till 6 a.m. It's not, you know what I mean? Like there is a point where maybe it feels like it's done. What are your thoughts of these?
I think it's a public hearing and it's unlimited time.
Well,
and if you get up and you say, the couch is black, and you get up and you say the couch is black again, then it's the council president's, obligation, I guess, to say, Mr. Gibbons, you've already said that. Please take your seat so somebody else could speak.
Right.
But, to close the public hearing because you think people, have had enough time after 3 hours.
Right. No, that part I definitely don't agree with. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Especially if you look out and you see there's other people with their hands raised.
Yeah, there's a sea of people.
You don't know what they're going to say until they go up and try to say it. So you don't know that they're going to be redundant.
That same meeting is the same one where they all went into the meeting room, came back out.
Right. Yeah.
And then shortly after that, it was like, yep, that's it. We're done. We're calling the meeting off.
Yeah, but all this, Keith, makes me remember the town hall that you and I went to. Remember that in Williamstown? We went to the Williamstown town hall because
Winslow?
Yeah, Winslow.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't it for Williamstown also?
I thought it was Winslow. I don't know.
It could have just been Winslow. But it reminds me of what Commissioner Capelli said to us that night. That, if you don't like what's happening in your township, really the only thing you could do is
go to the ballot box.
Go vote at the polls. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And people sure did do that on November 5th.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many people at the rec center. It was incredible how many people were there.
Yeah. We have here's the results from that election here.
Yeah, there's one thing that I want to pull out, and we talked about this briefly on a 17-hour podcast that we did.
It doesn't exist anymore.
We
we burned it in the backyard
until 1 o'clock in the morning. People did vote quite a bit. 21,577 at the time that this was taken to 4,900 basically in favor of not selling the sewer. But they also, I think they were confused too because, and this is where kind of voter education comes in. Mm-hmm. Mrs. Troxel won that election against Tim Pfeffer for the council seat. She was the one that voted to sell the sewer, and so it was kind of like people were like, "Yeah, I don't believe that what anybody up there because everybody voted to sell the sewer."
Yeah,
but then they said, "I'd like that lady back up there again." That doesn't agree.
Well,
with
I don't think they knew anything about her or where she was sitting or anything else. They just saw what column she was in.
Yeah,
basically
so I think that was.
But yeah, look at the vote by mail. I guess is where it was lost. He's right out the gates, 4,000 down. Tim Pfeffer to her, but on election day, they're pretty close, neck and neck there, right? And then
the vote by
early
mail's...
voting, pretty neck and neck, a little bit up on Tim and early voting, but it was all election or all vote by mail. But yeah, so those same people that voted no were like, yeah, let's put the lady back on that put us in the spot that I'm so mad about this. I voted no on it.
So many people were energized to get out and vote, and then
put the same person right back in.
I think I don't know, our fault partially because we didn't. I think it should have been communicated. Well, it was a lot of people's fault. The Republicans kind of sucked on the pushing Tim Pfeffer and
get out
and doing that part. But at the same time, I don't think we made it clear enough that one kind of equaled the other. Yeah. If you don't want to sell the sewer, how about vote for the guy who said on camera here, I would not have voted to sell the sewer. So
yeah, but at the same point, I mean, we weren't focused on. I know I wasn't focused on people.
No.
I was focused on an issue.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it was the biggest issue because we started this year off. If you remember correctly, like we were going into 2024 with like we had a whole lot of like fun stuff planned, like scavenger hunts, and we started doing some online ones.
Yeah,
and then we're gonna move into some other stuff, and we're like, all right, we're gonna do more than just the the politics stuff.
Right.
And then this completely took everything over.
Yeah, it took over
everything over, and it blew everything away.
But that was stated the other day though about the amount of time, Denise. Like it was like literally,
Right.
I don't think a day went past that we weren't out there doing something. I had
every single day
Yeah.
for 6 months. It was a lot of work. But as far as the people voting for Tim or voting for Troxel, when I was at the rec center, I can't tell you all the times I went in as a challenger, all the people standing in line to vote with the shiny flyers from from the township with their picks. And it's a shame that people go to the polls and really don't have a clear idea who they're voting for before they get there. Because if they did and somebody said, here, vote for these people, they'd say, no, thank you, I already know who I'm voting for. But they take the flyer, they go in, and that's the people they vote for. And, I mean, there was just hundreds and hundreds of people that had those flyers. Did Tim have flyers?
No.
There you go.
No election. I did not, as a challenger, go to any place and see anyone handing out Tim flyers.
There you go.
There were actually people on the committee supporting Tim that were handing out don't sell the sewer flyers, but not handing out Tim flyers. So I truly didn't represent. We didn't represent on election day the guy that was
right
who had our
running against it.
And yet the people that were there to vote on the sewer knew when they got there that they were voting no.
Right.
Because they'd been educated and they made up their minds before they got to the polls.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So I think if the people sign up for davisnext.com, expect to be called upon on election day to inform people in the parking lots, because a lot of decisions are made right there in the parking lots.
They are. They just know they're going to go vote.
I think that's one of the biggest things that when people always ask, like, well, hey, what can we do to make changes? That's a huge thing, because a lot of people show up and they have no idea. They have something. They have something that they're going there to vote for.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just say, look, it's my right to vote. I'm going to go vote. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I'm going to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
And then they get there and somebody hands them a card and they go, sure, it's good enough.
Right.
I know when I handed a guy a card when I was running like the first year, it was in the rain, it was cold. The guy goes, I don't know who you are, buddy, but it's raining, it's cold. I'm going to vote for you because you're standing out here. And I'm like, that's not really a great reason, but okay. Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that we did do well as far as the sewer sale went was we were able to convince people that they had to go out and vote. And I think in the past, a lot of people believed that, somebody else would take care of all this for them. Yeah. And with the education on the sewer, I think we made it clear to people that, we have to do this all together as a community. Everybody needs to go out and vote, because if you don't, we're going to lose.
Yep. And
I remember Dennis Palmer sent a letter to the Department of Community Affairs regarding an issue over I think it was the dissolution. And the acting commissioner for the Department of Community Affairs sent in a letter to Dennis, quote, taxpayers have the right to question their elected representatives about these decisions and may do so either on an individual basis or at a public meeting of the governing body. Ultimately, the voters of a municipality are able to decide through the ballot box whether the members of the governing body have adequately performed their duties in the public interest. Huh. And that's what people have to understand. I mean, nobody is coming to save us. And if you don't like what's happening, you need to educate yourself on the issue, understand the issue, and vote. And, that's the only way that things are going to change.
And just like you're saying there that the ballot box and people thinking someone's going to come save them. How many times have you seen online where somebody chimes in or like, oh, you need to report this to such and such.
Right.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that? Because we also think we haven't done that. There's nowhere else to go. We've gone. I play that clip at the end of that montage of things for the sewer thing.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
It's like like Luca Pelli up there. So, when you say we need to go to the next level, where is that? And his answer is the ballot box, the elections that they have every year, and that's what people in Gloucester Township need to understand. Is that 100% is what we need to do.
Right.
We did it with this sewer thing, and we need to do that again next year. The people that are in there need to be held responsible. That's where you do it. There's no email you can send to Department of Community Affairs or to the Attorney General's office or to this or that or the ballot box. That's where you have to go.
The message from the government, from the people higher up, is clear. We have to hold our elected officials accountable at the polls. That's all we can do.
Yep. That's it.
Yep.
But that's pretty much it. I think we had just the closing polling of directors, as they call it, right? And we had let's put this because people should know to come out to this here.
Thanks for coming out. Second of all,
whoa, that's loud.
As the liaison for the Gloucester Township Historic and Scenic Preservation Committee, say that 3 times fast. I would like to invite all the residents of Gloucester Township to the Gabriel Davies, I was correct, it's not Davis, it's Davies Tavern, for the holiday open house on Sunday, December 1st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you want to get into the holiday spirit, they're going to have a Santa Claus, they're going to have a choir, some refreshments for everybody. The tavern is decorated for the holidays, so it's a nice event. And
all right. So go out there to Gabriel Davies.
Gabriel Davies. December 1st.
Yeah. So all right. And I think after that, the only thing that happened was everybody congratulated Troxel, and then everybody went home.
Oh, Dina got congrats from Orlando too.
That's true.
She did.
That's true.
Yep. Orlando did congratulate Tina Hendry on winning her run
Seat
for
on the
school board
yep.
election.
No note yet if anybody's ever reached out to her to let her know.
Yep. I should call and congratulate her too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, she worked hard. It was the 3rd time to get that seat, so congrats to her.
Yeah, that was the 3rd time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, don't tell anybody else that 3rd time's a charm, because I don't want to do that anymore.
That's why he has his own disclaimer at this point now.
You do have the right to say no, Jeff.
But sometimes you got to. Sometimes you're just like, man, somebody's got to do it.
Goes away by
well, I think Dave should do it over here.
Dave's dead.
Yeah, Dave's
Dave's next.
It's yeah. Anything else?
I don't think we have anything else. I think we can just have everybody.
I think if you haven't subscribed,
there you go.
By now, what are you doing? Subscribe already.
Hit the notification bell buttons. We try and do this every other week.
Share it, because you probably have subscribed, but you probably haven't shared it. If there's some other group other than the ones that we're in where you see our content, share it there too.
Yep. So
that way more people know about these issues, and we don't have to put signs on everybody's lawns about issues. So,
speaking of signs, also
if you want a Dave is Next sign, you can
davisnext.com.
And if you're good at designing signs, there is a submission form on there where you can submit your design, so that your design can become the official sign.
Yep.
We've got a couple. We've showed off a couple different versions of them here and there, and submit yours.
Yep. Maybe we should have a contest. The best sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's part of what it is.
It's pretty cool when you win something, when you design the sign and the sign winds up like on CBS.
Yeah.
Right. It would be a pretty cool thing. So.
That's true.
All right. Do you have anything you want to say good night with?
No.
No. All right.
Tired.
All right. Well.
I want to go home and look like Dave.
All right, folks. We will catch you next time.